Hello and welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm JD Davidson. If a new poll is to believe, President Biden is facing trouble in Wisconsin, a state he carried in the 2020 general election by only 22,000 votes. Unlike other states, people in Wisconsin can vote uninstructed in a primary, basically meaning they don't want any of the candidates offered. Far more voted that way than voted for Biden in 2020. Joining us today is Ben Yount, Wisconsin contributor for the Center Square. Ben, tell us more about this poll of uninstructed voters, who's behind it, and what it might mean for Biden in November.
This has got to worry the Biden campaign. Wisconsin is traditionally a blue state. I think that what's the recap, that it was Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Those are the only two Republicans to ever win Wisconsin or win Wisconsin in the modern age. So Wisconsin is traditionally a blue state, but it's also a very, very close state, and elections are generally razor thin. In 2020, Biden won this state by about 22,000 votes. That's a fraction of a percent when you take a look at the 2 million something people who voted in 2020. And if you take a look at the real clear politics averages, Wisconsin is one of maybe two states where President Biden is within striking distance to win. The rest of the swing states are either leaning Donald Trump or just absolutely settled for President Trump. I think he's up 6.5 in Nevada or something like that. So Wisconsin is key. Joe Biden has to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in order to have any chance to become president again. He cannot win unless he wins all three. And so this poll from the group Americans for Justice in Palestine Action says that there are enough voters who are mad enough about the war in Gaza that they could deny President Biden his victory. The headline, the top line, is 1 in 5 Democrats and independents are less likely to vote for Biden in November due to his support for, as they put it, support for Israel in the war in Gaza. Now, less likely to vote is not, I'm not going to vote, but at a time when this is a 2-point lead for Donald Trump, according to the latest Marquette Law School poll, at a time when President Biden's approval rating is high 30s, low 40s, at a time when 60-something% of Americans think that the country is on the wrong track. Another concern, another leak, another loss of Joe Biden voters is not good. And you have to remember that when you take a look at the political map in Wisconsin, that you have two big population centers, Milwaukee and Madison. And while Democrats have been making gains in the Milwaukee suburbs, their base, their strength, the deep blue well of votes is in Madison and the Madison area. It's where the University of Wisconsin-Madison, their biggest campus, is. If these are voters who don't turn out in Madison, if these are voters who are inspired by the campus protests of earlier in the month, if these are voters who just decide, you know what, this is my one issue. Yeah, I understand climate change. Yeah, I understand abortion, but this is the issue of the year, and I just won't vote for Donald Trump because of it. They very well could deny him victory here in Wisconsin. And without Wisconsin, he doesn't become president. Without Wisconsin, it very well looks like Donald Trump would become president.
I don't want to make this earth-shattering end of Biden moment, but I think it's pretty important. I mean, obviously, these people who this is their key issue are not going to vote for Donald Trump, because that's even, in their mind, that would be even worse for their cause. I guess the worry for the Democrats and the Biden campaign is if they just stay home. And 22,000 is not a lot of people to stay home on election day.
And look, these are people that don't have to stay home completely.
Sure.
They could vote. Wisconsin's got a Senate race. Wisconsin's got a race for every single state legislative seat or state assembly seat. Madison, they're going to elect a new county executive come November. There are all sorts of other races. And so these voters could turn out. And the Wisconsin Democratic Party is very good at turning out its voters. They had a 90% voter turnout in Dane County in the 2022 midterms. I mean, it was amazing how many people they got to go and vote. And a lot of the support, a lot of the voters are young college students. In 2022, they were mostly women who voted for abortion. And if you go again to the dorms like they did in 2022 and knock on the door and say, hey, we've got a polling station down in the lobby. Can I take you to vote? And while we're going, can I talk to you about these candidates? It was primarily these progressive voters at the University of Wisconsin who were in those protests at the University of Wisconsin. And you add that to the expected just sort of bleed. The economy is not as good as it was 4 years ago. Donald Trump hasn't been in office for 4 years, and people tend to forget about the tweets that he was putting out. That there's been an expectation that Joe Biden's not going to be able to repeat the performance that he had in 2022. And if you add this to that, then all of a sudden it really does start to become a mathematics question. The quote that came along with the poll from their campaign strategist, Rima Ahmad, said, the poll echoes the nearly 50,000 uninstructed votes from the primary in April. Now, Joe Biden got 511,000 votes, so 500,000 votes in the Democratic primary in April. He got 89% of the vote. He got a higher percentage of the Democratic vote than Donald Trump got of the Republican vote, by the way. But that 50,000 uninstructed number is very significant because, again, it's 22,000. That was how many votes Joe Biden won Wisconsin by. And that's with all of the questions about indefinitely confined voters and votes from nursing homes and democracy in the park in Madison and the Zuckerbuck scandal. And we could go around the horn and relitigate the 2020 election all over again. But while those election loopholes have not been closed, I don't know that everyone expects that we're going to see an exact repeat. And, you know, the stat is thrown out constantly. Joe Biden got more votes in 2020 than Barack Obama ever did. And I think that you know, there's a natural expectation of a letdown, but this specific targeted letdown of, hey, we're not going to vote for you is something different. And now the question becomes, will these voters, as they put them, Gaza voters, will they not vote for Joe Biden? Or is this just more part of a pressure campaign to get the president, to get his administration to do something in Gaza that makes these voters happy? Or will Israel finally finish its war in Gaza so they can put this in the rearview mirror, and maybe come November, these voters won't be as angry because the war is no longer ongoing?
You're absolutely right. This will be a key issue in Wisconsin, the most key of states, for the next several months. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
Freedom, individualism, limited government. On these issues, conservatives and libertarians generally agree. But where do we disagree? Check out the Future of Freedom podcast for civil, reasoned conversations about some of today's most pressing topics. It's not a debate. Our goal is to provide the best arguments from either side of an issue. Then you decide. It's the Future of Freedom podcast. Find it at americastalking.com or wherever you find your podcasts.